Israel is a loaded word with many meanings. As Christians and as conservatives, we actually care about the meaning or definition of words, like what is a woman? And a current Supreme Court justice still can't even define that one. But just like a woman, what are we talking about when we talk about Israel? Are we talking about a person, a people group, a religion, a kingdom, a modern nation state? Are we speaking biblically, historically, politically, theologically? Are we separating government policy from ethnic identity and religious faith? Well, I got another whiteboard ready, so let's go through it. So let's start up top here. So we got Israel. Over here, we have first, it's Jacob's new covenant name back in Genesis. It's also Jacob's biological descendants, the 12 tribes. It's the ancient covenant nation state. Israel also means a religion. It's the religious tradition. Judaism emerges from it. We have an ethnic identity. We also have a cultural identity. We have a modern geopolitical nation state from 1948 to the present, which brings us Zionism, which is connected to Israel, modern nationalist movement, and the current Israeli government leadership. All of that means Israel. Okay, so there's 8 different definitions here that all can be connected to Israel, so that when we talk about Israel, it's a loaded word. So let's go through from the beginning where Israel is first mentioned in the Bible, the biblical covenantal kingdom. In Genesis 32:28 is the first time Israel is mentioned. God tells Jacob, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven or wrestled with God and with men and have prevailed." So Israel, by definition, the Hebrew word means he struggles or wrestles with God. After Genesis 35:10, where the name is reaffirmed and Jacob's descendants then become the sons of Israel, Exodus 1:1, the 12 tribes, a covenant people delivered from Egypt to a promised land. Biblically, Israel is a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, Exodus 19:5-6. A people holy to the Lord, Yahweh, your God, Deuteronomy 7:6. It is a people group, ethnic descendants of Jacob. They are bound by covenant law, the Torah. They are chosen for redemptive purpose, not for ethnic superiority. Genesis 12:3. This is one of the caveats I have. Senators like Ted Cruz will quote, Genesis 12:3 about blessing the modern state of Israel now. But the promise of Genesis 12:3 was God talking to Abraham before Jacob, before Israel. It was a promise of blessing and curse made to Abraham. It was not made to a nation state. In Genesis 12:3, God promises that through Abraham, in him, all nations of the earth will be blessed. That's where we get the Messiah, Jesus Christ, where all nations are blessed through him. So Israel starts off as a theocracy. God is their leader. That is how they are ruled. But they demand to be like other nations. So about 1000 BC, they ask for a king. They become a United Nation state under Saul and then David and then Solomon. The capital was declared as Jerusalem by David. After Solomon, the kingdom is split. Civil war happens. There's a northern kingdom of Israel with 10 tribes, and there's a southern kingdom, Judah, with 2 tribes. In 722 BC, the northern kingdom falls to Assyria. They're all exiled, and all of those tribes, those 10 tribes, then get scattered throughout the nations. They lose their ethnic identity. That's why they're called the lost tribes of Israel. In 586 BC, the southern kingdom falls to Babylon. They're exiled for 70 years. They come back, rebuild the temple. In the Old Testament, we have Israel as a religion, Judaism, all right? The religion of ancient Israel. It was a covenantal worship centered on Yahweh and the temple. After the Babylonian exile, and especially post 70 AD, when the Romans came in, sieged Jerusalem, completely wiped the temple down to the ground, Israel was no longer a nation. After AD 70, temple sacrifices, everything ended. Israel's gone, wiped off the map. The region is then named Palestine by the Romans, and that's what the region is called. Now, there was never a nation state named Palestine, but the region, the area, the general land was called Palestine. So the religion, after the temple destruction, after the sacrifices end, the religion develops into rabbinic Judaism, eventually creating the Talmud. The Talmud is where we get all those lovely verses about Goyim, Goy, Jesus boiling in excrement in hell, all that stuff. Look it up if you haven't. So now we go to the modern secular nation state of Israel, founded May 14th, 1948. The Rothschilds had a connection to this. Look it up. So the state of Israel is a modern political state, international recognition. It is governed by a parliamentary democracy, governed by secular law. Jewish identity shapes the character of the government, but there's not a religious element in it. The capital is claimed as Jerusalem. Now, a key note, especially for dispensationalist Christians, I am not a dispensationalist Christian. So over here is the biblical side. Here's the modern side. And just to be clear, they are not identical, okay? They are not identical. There's a clear biblical definition of Israel, and there's a clear modern version of Israel. Again, loaded word, 9 different meanings up here, all mean Israel. We need to learn how to separate them so we know what we're talking about. But the modern secular state of Israel is not biblical Israel, and we can criticize another foreign nation state, just like we can criticize Iran or Syria or the UK or any other nation state. We're allowed to criticize foreign nation states, and just because this foreign nation state happens to have the word Israel doesn't mean it gets special protection in my book. Israel as Zionism. Now that this word gets wrapped up with Israel as well. It's originally a political movement in the 19th and 20th century that advocated for a Jewish homeland. Today, it's a mix of secular nationalism. It's really an expansionist movement. Israel wants to expand their state. The state that they have, they want more territory, they want more land, they want to expand it. Israel as a current government leadership. Again, Israel gets conflated with a lot of things. Government leadership is one of them. This is the Netanyahu era. He was originally named Malkowski. He changed his name to Netanyahu, but he was originally a Malkowski, a Polish name. He is the prime minister. His policies represent a coalition government. They do not define Judaism as a religion or Israel as a biblical concept. Most modern Jews are secular and define Judaism as their values, culture, and tradition. There is a lot of culture and tradition that come in the Jewish line, and they keep celebrating these feasts and festivals that were prescribed by God in the Bible in the Old Testament, which is great. They hold on to that identity, but they do not claim a religion with it. Some of them. There is some religious Jews, of course, but most of the modern Jews today are secular, who see themselves more as their cultural, ethnic, and traditional identity rather than a religious identity. In Romans chapters 9 through 11, Paul wrestles with the ethnic Israel versus spiritual Israel. He talks about a remnant. He quotes the Old Testament about a remnant of 7,000 who did not bend the knee to Baal. If there's a remnant today that a lot of dispensational Christians are holding to, that's why they support everything about Israel, everything about the modern nation state of Israel. If there's a small remnant, why would you support the entirety of a government that sometimes is out of control, that sometimes commits war crimes, that sometimes goes way too far in their campaign against their enemies? Killing children, completely leveling an entire region. Those aren't Christian principles. Just judge that by what Christ would do. Galatians 3 verses 7 and 29. Paul tells us that those who are of the faith in Jesus Christ are the sons of Abraham. Going back to Genesis 12:3. Jeremiah 31 through 34. God presents a promise of a new covenant that was brought to us by Jesus Christ. All around, with all of these different meanings of Israel, a failure to distinguish between these layers causes confusion, conflation, and often injustice. And I will say we are seeing a lot of that injustice right now with these anti-Semitism speech laws. Our First Amendment rights are being violated for a specific nation state. So if we criticize the government of Israel, if we criticize Netanyahu, it's anti-Semitic. If we criticize Zionism now, it's anti-Semitic. This is where it becomes an injustice for not knowing what the definition is of the words we are talking about. Each layer must be evaluated in its own historical, modern, or theological context. And that is what is at the heart of this, because right now, all these anti-Semitism laws are popping up across the country. They wanted to do it nationally too. I know Florida signed their bill right in Israel, but now it is becoming a crime. We are being shadow banned or blocked by criticizing Israel or anything that this Jewish government does based on anti-Semitism speech laws. So when we don't have a proper definition of a word, when a word is loaded with a whole lot of meaning and people don't separate it, then it is taken advantage of. It stops us from speaking out against an ultra-violent government that is killing children and negatively influencing American politics right now.